everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your life, your job, or your business. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt something similar. They decided to do something about it, and today is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Richard Blank, CEO of Costa Rica's Call Center. Costa Rica's Call Center is a division of Cheyenne Consultants, a company incorporated, guess where? In Costa Rica. At the beginning of the new millennium, which seems further and further away, Richard relocated to Costa Rica to train over 500 employees for one of the largest call centers in Central America. Richard has gone on to successfully prepare and manage some of the finest telemarketers in the country by utilizing his motivational public speaking style, backed by tactful and appropriate rhetoric. In addition, Richard earned a strong reputation as a telemarketing school owner and is often sought after for private training sessions and consultations. In anticipation of CAFTA, otherwise known as the Central American Free Trade Agreement, Richard became a strategic partner of the Pacific Rim Chamber of Commerce in Beverly Hills, California, and the Solo Telecommunications in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in an effort to expand Costa Rica's international telecommunications and business appeal. Educationally, Richard holds a bachelor's degree in communication and Spanish from the University of Arizona and a certificate of language proficiency from the University of Sevilla in Spain. I've been looking forward to this conversation for months, so without further ado, please join us in welcoming Richard Blank, CEO of Costa Rica's Call Center, to our show via Zoom. So here's your round of applause. So yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So happy to be here with you today, Barbara. Love being your guest, love the show, and I have so much to share with you and your amazing audience.
Awesome. So let's jump right in, because as you know, one of the first things we do after reading all that is ask our guests, what is it that little Richard wanted to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be Mr. T from the A-Team. That wasn't going to happen. I know that as a young boy, I always liked to pay it forward, either with friendship or with compliments or just being fun. And so I knew that the job I had to do would be something that wouldn't limit me, would expand on the skills that I had, so I was happy, and I could always have that spring in my step. So I kind of fell into being a CEO of a call center. No one really studies for that, and there's not a blueprint for it. But I definitely took that 1 in a million opportunity, and here we are today.
Wow. Now, falling into a call center, I mean, you started your journey here in the United States. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of steps along the way. What was it that you think actually led you into this industry in particular?
Once again, I had a very good friend that was here, so I had the invitation in August of 2000 to come down for a couple months and teach English, but it really was building on momentum way before that. When I graduated the proud Abington High School in Northeast Philadelphia, I decided to be a Spanish major. A lot of my friends were going on to Ivy League to study medicine and law, architecture and engineering. I didn't have the grades, nor the maturity, or the structure for it. And I felt like I might have been in a visible box if I was forced into a career or certain expectations. And so I took the chance. And when I knew that I loved what I was doing when I was at the University of Arizona, it just wasn't the studying in class. I was doing a lot of dedicated practice. There was a ton of Spanish outside of the classroom. And so when you're that dedicated, you have that sort of fidelity, really put in the extra, of course you're going to be better than average. And I knew that it would make me marketable. Mm-hmm. It would give me self-reliance if I was the only one out of my friends that could translate or speak in a second language. And I was going to put all my chips down on that and to see where it would take me. And so, to answer your question, when I had the chance to come to Costa Rica and learn the call center industry, I combined the second language, being from Philadelphia, the ins and outs of a company, to treat people well, to treat them with dignity, and not make them expendable or a machine.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I learned in business, especially sitting with the agents in the first couple of years, they just wanted that acknowledgement, and they just didn't want to be bent to break. They wanted to be pushed, but in a healthy way, so they could pace themselves and grow accordingly. And once I heard that from people and I knew to start my business, I didn't need the bells and the whistles. I just needed some base foundation on how to treat people. And from there, people stay with you and they grow from there. But that's pretty much my ins and outs of wanting to start a call center and being a CEO.
But it's interesting because what you so described is the essence of servant leadership, right? I mean, you listened to people, you met them where they were, and you treated them the way that they deserved to be treated as human beings. And as someone who's worked in a call center at one point, actually 3 points in my life, that wasn't necessarily the case. And, the other interesting thing about it is Costa Rica. We get complaints in the United States all about, call centers and all around the world, but you're doing things very differently than other outsource opportunities in other countries. So let's talk about some more of the things that make your call center so much different than some of the other options that are out there.
Of course. I tell you what, really the difference is proxemics. It's just spacing. All call centers have internet redundancy. They have IT support, computers, the desks. But what is the difference? Didn't you have more fun at one club than another? One friend's house had better junk food and cooler parents. So, I mean, it's the same labor pool, it's the same computers, the same salaries. So to answer your question, you see behind me I have a jukebox and a candy machine. I love recess. I love dessert. And I have a gamification culture here where I collect classic pinball machines and retro arcade machines and have an air hockey table. And so I encourage agents to meet each other from different departments, to let off steam, to have some fun, smoke one less cigarette, get off your phone for 5 minutes, go play. And by doing so, I've been able to anchor and bond. I mean, that's one of the things that I do. Secondly, I like to at least know the people. I compete against Amazon, so Jeff Bezos has thousands of agents here, and he's done a great job. But it would almost be impossible for him to know everybody. Me, since I'm only 150, very selective of the agents that come in, it's very easy for me to know everyone, even those that work from home. And so by creating that sort of environment where people aren't hiding, but the sort of agent that wants me to delegate and make a name for themselves, then they're in the right environment. And this isn't by office politics, backstabbing, or kissing butt. It's through merit. And one of the greatest things, and you guys are out of Jersey, the Northeast guilt. We can call the balls and the strikes, and we can be black and white with people. And I will let them know when they were champions and the greatest. And then other times I could go, yo, Barbara, you're better than that. And they know they're better than that. And so when you straighten somebody's tie, and you can speak to someone in a certain candid way, if they can take the suggestion and you do it diplomatically, you'll build strength with them. They'll realize that you really do care and that you are sincere and that you do have an interest in them. And so I've been able to filter through natural process those that are coachable, that want to be aspired to a knight. This is a very interesting industry. A lot of it is labor intensive. It's concentrated work for 160 hours a month. Taking and receiving phone calls, there might be monotony to it. You understand the centers. I looked at it like this. Do you remember the expression, whistle while you work?
Yes.
I mean, this was Snow White when she was sweeping floors. I mean, you can enjoy any sort of job if you see the art in it. And I always believe that client retention is a beautiful thing, a positive escalation when they mention to a supervisor, or just by changing the tone and really using very choice vocabulary, showing active listening, anchoring engagement, talking about their dogs or children in the background, using military alphabet. These are the sort of things where if you have that advanced structure, you'll make more money, you won't compromise ethics. And just like in The Wolf of Wall Street, when all those people were watching Leonardo DiCaprio make that phone call for 1 minute and 46 seconds, when you break the call down and you analyze it, he did not use any advanced vocabulary. He's not speaking in Greek. He's not doing rocket science. He used the guy's name 6 times. Mm-hmm. He listened. If you put him on mute, you watch the illustrators. He's animated when he's speaking, so his body's in sync. There's congruence there. And when the people behind him asked him what he was doing, I got upset because I said, these guys should be on the phone making phone calls. What's wrong with them? But I understand when somebody has that sort of confidence where things look easy, but you have to understand as well, that's a boxer that's been training for months to do knockouts. You just don't walk into something like that. So unless you're 100% devoted into your craft, you'll probably never get to those certain levels, Barbara, that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And 100% to everything that you just said. And definitely one of the first things that I loved when we first met was the fact that you do use the whole gamification and you encourage people to bring their whole selves and have fun. That's because fun and hard work are not mutually exclusive, contrary to what some people would have you think. And with your team of 50, to the extent that you can, tell me about some of the types of call center services you provide to your clients that are out there, be them large or small.
That's a great question. I'll tell you 5 I don't do. We don't do sports books, casinos, stocks, pharmacies, or sweepstakes. Nothing against it, but I'm in a strict Catholic country and I'm a guest here. I want to make sure the agents go home and tell their mothers what they do for a living. So what do? I want to ensure to fulfill certain needs. Don't want to overextend. So I work with inbound customer support. It could be voice or non-voice. Back office support. We do lead generation, appointment setting, and if people are exceptionally skilled, they can do sales. I turn down more accounts than I accept, and I have to ensure that A, they're not gray area or shady. And second, even if they're a pilot campaign versus a plug and play, as long as I can be forthright with my clients and there's no surprises, it's a great relationship because I have no problem writing rhetoric, doing quality control, onboarding, training, making adjustments. It's just, it's an investment in a process. Sometimes there needs to be little tweaks to it. But for the most part, I do not want somebody calling me with unrealistic expectations. There's certain metrics. If you can only do 10 calls an hour, the average call is 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that you're able to do 20 in an hour if the metrics are there and there's wrap-up time and things like that. And so by trying to motivate me by saying someone named Jasmine in your home office can do double, come on, it's my wheelhouse. I know the game. Yeah. I just want to make sure we're on a level playing field. And you're giving me and the agents all the resources because the soldier needs the motivation and to be happy. You got to keep the go-go juice. So just make sure that you give us what we need in order to fulfill your needs. And so it's very simple because a lot of people have a sense of urgency, or they've been burned from another center, or they just have a bad taste in their mouth. And so for me, it's very easy to make big piles, Barbara, into smaller piles, and just to see where it fits and works in the beginning. But I like clients that love the art of speech because I'll get rhetoric sometimes that's too aggressive, or I have some people that write a book, so it's too passive. And just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it's got to feel right and taste right. I like things that are assertive. Yeah. We just got to make sure we're shaving the time, we're in pace, a nice 3-minute song, and then we're on to the next one. And that's how a lot of the times people can jump clouds. And I call them romantic deaths, where they could do perfect introductions and let the body and conclusion fall as it may. But they really are pacing beautifully by speaking the way they need to. And then playing their odds, if that makes any sort of sense, Barbara.
It does, because it's interesting. In fact, the first thing I thought of when you brought up the metrics, I remember back in 88, when my call center metrics were 95 calls per day on an 8-hour shift. And part of how they measured the metrics was on average. And my whole position at my age, even then, was it's an average. So anybody who moves their call volume up, the average is just going to move up. You're giving people a ridiculous target to shoot for. And that was received very interestingly. But it just seemed so nonsensical. And that wasn't exactly what I would call a fun job either. So
No, they're rushing you, right? A supervisor with coffee breath is telling you to hang up.
Yes.
When you wanted to speak to Barbara for a couple more minutes about life. And it was very funny. I was passive aggressive, maybe a rebel, because I was supposed to make 100 calls a day and I was making about, let's say, 88 for the year you were in the call center. Mm-hmm. Talk time was longer, less calls, but conversion was higher. So stop yelling at me.
Yes, exactly.
And don't rush me. You can't rush an artist that's in a groove. You can't speak for 5 hours.
Yep.
And Barbara, you had that one call for an hour, right?
Yep.
That turned out crazy. Everyone has to go through that as well. And you wonder why you listened to those phone calls, because you did the Chuck Wepner versus Ali. You didn't get the sale, but man, you went 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You answered every rebuttal.
Yeah.
Everybody's gone through one of those calls where you walk the desert but still make it.
Yep.
You have to. It's a coming of age. It's the passing.
Yep.
Because then on the flip side, the sweet side, you'll get the gifts.
Yes.
The 1 minute credit card at the ready, 5 referrals that are handing it to you. So me today, you tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I always love that sort of philosophy.
Awesome. So we are actually past our break time. So we are going to take a quick break for our television sponsors, and then we're going to return for more with Richard Blank at Costa Rica's call center. Welcome back to What the Why with today's very special guest, joining us from Costa Rica's call center, CEO Richard Blank. And before the break, he was talking about, well, we were having all kinds of conversations, but the bottom line is the way he runs his call center is unlike most call centers out there. I mean, if your company needs call center services, this is definitely the person you want to go to. Not just because they get the job done, but because you know that as a servant leader, he's treating his employees with dignity and respect in an environment that really uplifts and empowers everybody to do the job that they've been hired to do. So, and it's interesting because that takes some bravery in such a competitive industry. So I know that it's important to you, but there still took a level of, hey, I'm going to do this differently. Where did you find the courage to do that?
I was getting older. I was in my mid-30s. I realized I didn't have the capital or the maturity in my 20s to start. But time's a ticking. I wanted to throw my hat in the ring. I also felt overwhelmed because I agree with you. How do you start? Where do you begin? Well, first thing I learned is to calm down and slow down. You're moving too fast. I have the trunk of the tree. That's me. I needed roots and I needed branches. So let's be realistic. Let's get some specialists. The chief technical officer, the director of human resources, right? Individuals, supervision, security, attorneys. And so instead of going to school and mastering these things and being an octopus with 8 tentacles, I couldn't do it. I just didn't want to be a cowboy with a big hat and no cattle. It's not my kind of player. So I had to have faith in individuals and delegate. It's the only way to grow, was to expand that way. And instead of just putting all of my money down and getting a penthouse suite and all the fixings, I started slow. I scaled accordingly. Instead of my own space, I was renting a turnkey station from a blended center. Did that for a couple of years till I had the stability in the capital. Then rented space and bought used equipment. You can do that too.
Yeah.
Did that for about 6 years. And then when I had the super duper ready, I bought a building and put a third floor on it, and have the capacity for 300. So I wish I had a shortcut or one of those stories where it was a whirlwind romance where it happened within a week. But mine was slow and steady. I mean, tomorrow will be my 16th year in business.
Wow.
And so if somebody has the patience to invest in endurance, you'll make it. If you think it's just going to be overnight or just a quick half an hour special that you learned on YouTube, next thing you know, you're a millionaire. It may happen. But for most of us, you have to go the distance. You got to grind it out. I mean, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. It's all about running through first base. It's about the extension. It's about not quitting. And I learned about regardless of the outcome, if you do things with good intentions and with good faith, and I'm not doing pie in the sky wishes, I'm talking about the real deal, then you can at least live with yourself.
Yeah.
And if you trained properly and have the right resources and support, the odds might be in your favor. And you mentioned earlier all the steps to get here today. Well, yeah, and they all built on one another. They needed some sort of direction. I might have not had the perfect straight line, but Barbara, I saw the island in the distance. Still doesn't mean you and I can't wiggle and zig and zag a little bit to get there. Or even take a break every now and again, or even try to get some of the water out of the boat.
Yep.
Because we do make mistakes every now and again. And you just can't be so hard on yourself. This is what you signed up for. And a lot of the times, this is the price that you pay. And if you try to compare yourself to others, you're foolish as well. It's really about how many pull-ups and push-ups you can do. That's the only really way to gauge your pace. Because if not, you might overextend or hesitate.
Yeah.
And so I really had to have that sort of self-confidence in order to follow through on certain decisions. And that's what's being a leader and an entrepreneur and willing to take those risks. And if you do, and you get lucky, and you get a chance to be on the What the Why podcast, telling tall tales of why you took risks in life and you got past parents' guilt and you allowed the naysayers and great believers to love you, but just not break you. And these are the sort of things when I'm explaining to you and your audience, I think it might resonate with each person because everybody has their own certain experience that has to deal with family pressure, friend pressure, career pressure, time, money, and options. And I decided as a young man to be exceptionally selfish. Barbara, I needed to leave a castle, to slay a dragon, save a princess, and be a prince. I needed to drink life. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And when this 1 in a million opportunity came up, that almost answers your question, my friend. I just grabbed it, held on, and saw where it was going to take me. And that's the beauty of life, when you can live it like that. Yeah. And you see where your vision quests and your destiny takes you.
Yeah. And it brought you right here to the What the Why television show on rvntelevision.com, which is
That's right.
awesome. And you know, it's interesting because one of the things you talked about was the mistakes. And you know, one of my favorite acronyms is, you know, FAIL stands for First Attempt in Learning. And so much of what I heard from you really kind of resonated with that. As we start to wind down on our time, what's one piece of advice that you haven't already given that you would like to share for someone out there, whether it's coming to work for you in Costa Rica or pursuing a path that seems like something that is so out of the ordinary and yet so transformational?
How about this? Why don't we give my favorite advice, which is paying it forward? You worked at the call center. You know it's called a positive escalation when Barbara does a great job. The
Yes.
supervisor finds out. Well, let me share an example with you and your audience today. Your associate Keith did a phenomenal job in setting things up, introducing himself. This is prior to going live. And so these are amazing individuals that are behind the camera, that support you, that love the show, believe in what you do. And so I myself wanted to take the time to show you and show your audience that I appreciate everybody at your television network. And but when I come up to Jersey and I come visit everybody, it's not just Barbara, it's Keith and the rest of the gang. Mm-hmm. So I said hi to everyone. I mentioned everyone. I thanked everyone. I'm friends with everyone. And that will make happy homes. And that will differentiate you from anybody else that is going for that contract and that account. Because Barbara, at the end of the day, that has 10 options, will look at pricing and business models, but say to Keith, hey, who do you think we should go with? And Keith's like, well, Richard's really the only one that mentioned me on the show, was really nice to me, and thought about me. So maybe if that's just the way he treats us, imagine what happens when he's a client. And so I've had a lot of people tell me that just by mentioning their coworkers or doing some due diligence prior to a voicemail or an email or just learning about somebody just shows us it's not small talk now. You guys kind of know each other. Yeah. These big CEOs, they still are humans. Yeah. And they hate plastic. Mm-hmm. They want painting. They really want brushstroke. You don't need to give them a whole opera. But my goodness, if you can show just a little bit of, as you say, something different, but it needs to be authentic. Yeah. We can't fake it. We're going to get caught. Yeah. And so just by finding excitement in something that you have in common, or just once again trying to readjust tones in a certain way, that has been enough, my friend, for me to earn accounts and build a business. Mm-hmm. I just did it the way that I was taught from my parents and grandparents. Yeah. That's all I know. Yeah. Is the old school way. It's past that signed contract. People give business with people that they really like, and we all know that. Yeah.
And the best part is,
that's why I'm on your show. Yeah. You know how many people apply to be on your network? And the fact that I made the cut, it's humbling. Yeah. And so I believed in myself enough to put myself out there. We met, and here we are. Yeah. And so your audience needs to find those little examples as I'm showing you. It's just a snapshot on how you can make yourself a beautiful life and build that sort of momentum.
And with that final word, it's been an honor. And everybody knows that they can find you online by going to Costa Rica's callcenter.com and Googling you. What's some other ways that they can reach you really quickly, because we're running out of time?
Yes, ma'am. Well, you told me I'm your first Central American client, so I have a very, very large Facebook fan page of 129,000 Costa Ricans. So when this goes live, you're going to have a huge new Central America audience.
Awesome.
It'll give your audience a chance to know the American BPO industry in Central America.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show on RVN Television. And I guess, hasta luego. As for our upcoming guests, you really don't want to miss any of them. We've got a load of really great conversations with people who are fascinating. Please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what they've had to say. And if you've missed any of our past guests, you can find them on demand on rvntelevision.com, along with all of our other shows from our prior seasons. And as a reminder, all of our shows going forward are now all available on demand shortly after they exit production on rvntelevision.com, as well as Roku. You have so many viewing choices these days, so many choices. So thank you very, very much for watching our show, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, What the Why is, again, exclusively available on demand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And also, please remember, thank you for joining us. And remember, whether you're looking to make an changes in your life, no matter how big or small. Tune in again for illuminating, fascinating, enlightening conversations with guests such as Richard, who overcame whatever challenges